You call that a sniper? The words cut through the crisp morning air as Emily Hayes stepped onto the firing range, her eyes scanning the horizon with a calm intensity that contrasted sharply with the laughter echoing behind her. The sun had just risen over the base in Southern California, casting long shadows across the neatly arranged targets set up for precision drills. Emily's combat boots crunched softly on the gravel path as she approached the wooden shooting table, her hands already adjusting the strap of her lightweight tactical vest. She carried herself with the quiet confidence of someone who had spent countless hours mastering every detail of her craft, though her small frame and composed demeanor made it easy for casual observers to underestimate her. Around her, the hum of morning routines filled the air, officers checking logs, support staff moving equipment, and a few young recruits exchanging jokes about their latest drills. The group of 4 SEAL trainees standing near the range gate had their eyes fixed on Emily, smirks spreading across their faces as if they had already decided the outcome of whatever challenge lay ahead. One of them, a tall man with sandy blonde hair named Tyler Grant, stepped slightly forward, voice carrying a mixture of mockery and curiosity. "Seriously, you're a sniper? That's what they put you on the range for?" Emily's gaze didn't waver. She didn't respond immediately. Instead, she exhaled slowly, letting the ambient noise of the base serve as a buffer to the sharpness of his words. Her fingers traced the edges of her rifle case, an instrument she had come to know as an extension of herself, each joint, screw, and mechanism committed to muscle memory. The other 3 trainees, noticing Tyler's challenge, chuckled and exchanged knowing glances, their laughter intended to unsettle her. Behind the veneer of casual amusement, Emily's mind was already calculating distances, wind patterns, and angles, her experience guiding every thought with precise discipline. As she unstrapped the rifle from its case, arranging it on the table with methodical care, the early sunlight glinted off the polished metal, drawing the attention of her audience for the first time. She moved with a rhythm that was deliberate yet fluid, almost imperceptibly fast, each motion precise enough to suggest years of training without needing to announce it. The sound of clicks and clacks filled the quiet space as she fitted the components together, adjusting the scope and verifying alignment, her hands steady and deliberate. Tyler and the others leaned in slightly, trying to find any sign of hesitation, but Emily's expression remained serene, eyes locked on the target line beyond. A subtle smile touched the corner of her lips, almost imperceptible, a signal only she would recognize as preparation, focus, and quiet confidence. As she finished the final adjustments, she paused, inhaling the dry morning air, and allowed her gaze to sweep over the young men before her. The laughter faltered slightly as a flicker of realization passed across their faces, though none could yet put words to it. Emily didn't speak, but the air seemed to thicken with the weight of impending demonstration. What these trainees assumed was play would soon turn into an exacting display of skill they had underestimated. The targets stood at varying distances, some nearly a quarter-mile away, and Emily's body was already attuned to the calculations that would make her first shot decisive. She rested her cheek against the stock, eyes narrowing, and in that frozen moment before release, there was an almost imperceptible pause in the collective breath of everyone present. Each second stretched, filled with anticipation and subtle tension, a quiet storm of focus and expectation hanging in the morning light, signaling that the day's lesson was about to begin, and the underestimated sniper was about to claim the attention she had earned through skill, precision, and unwavering composure. Emily Hayes adjusted the scope once more, her hands steady despite the subtle tension in the air around the firing range. The 4 trainees who had been laughing moments earlier now watched with a mix of disbelief and curiosity, their previous bravado giving way to uncertainty. Each man shifted uneasily on the gravel, trying to mask their anticipation, yet every movement betrayed their awareness that the situation had subtly changed. Emily took a measured breath, inhaling the cool morning air and allowing it to settle her focus. The rifle felt balanced against her shoulder, its weight familiar, the recoil and handling memorized through countless drills and simulations. Around her, the base carried on with quiet efficiency, supply vehicles rolled past, instructors spoke in low tones, and distant voices echoed from other training areas, but all of it seemed to fade as Emily centered on the task at hand. She had anticipated skepticism, the casual dismissal of her abilities, and the jokes that followed her presence, yet she had never allowed them to dictate her actions. The four men had grouped near the perimeter of the range, leaning casually against the fence, whispering among themselves in half-hearted attempts to maintain their sense of control. One of them, a tall recruit named Lucas Pierce, glanced toward the target boards and muttered under his breath, "She cannot hit that from here," but his voice wavered with doubt. Emily's eyes flicked to the target line, estimating distances, considering wind speed, humidity, and sun angle, factors she had accounted for countless times before in training exercises designed to test both patience and precision. Her movements were deliberate, each adjustment to the rifle made with purpose, a choreography of efficiency and confidence that was almost imperceptible to the untrained eye. As she checked the alignment of the crosshairs, she noted the subtle imperfections in the terrain, the slight variations in the gravel and sand that might affect the trajectory, but she had already calculated compensations in her mind. The air was still, even the birds seemed to pause, as if sensing the tension that had quietly spread across the range. Emily did not speak, and yet her presence commanded attention, her posture and concentration communicating a silent authority that contrasted sharply with the nervous energy of the young men observing her. She slowly exhaled and tightened her grip, her finger resting lightly on the trigger guard, ready but unhurried. The moment stretched, a few seconds that felt longer in the charged atmosphere, a silent countdown to a demonstration that would irrevocably change the perception of those watching. The four trainees shifted again, glances exchanging between them as their earlier laughter faded completely, replaced by a cautious anticipation. Emily's gaze swept across the horizon one final time, confirming her target and the path she had calculated. In that quiet instant, there was an unspoken recognition of skill, the kind that demanded attention without a single word spoken, the kind that would soon silence doubts and reshape the understanding of her capabilities. The stillness of the morning seemed to focus entirely on her as she prepared for the demonstration, the rifle and the target line forming a conduit for precision, focus, and the quiet authority she had earned through years of disciplined practice. Every microsecond counted, and every movement was precise, signaling the upcoming display of her competence that would leave the onlookers re-evaluating their assumptions and expectations in a way that only true mastery could inspire. The wind shifted slightly across the range, carrying the scent of dust and sun-warmed gravel as Emily Hayes adjusted her stance, feet planted firmly on the ground. Her eyes scanned the distance once more, noting subtle variations in light and shadow across the targets, each detail catalogued in her mind with precise attention. The four trainees remained frozen in the background, their earlier confidence replaced by a growing awareness that they had misjudged the woman standing before them. Emily's hands moved with calm efficiency as she checked the final settings on her rifle, the mechanical click of each adjustment echoing faintly across the quiet morning. She did not speak, yet the presence she projected was commanding. It drew the gaze of every observer on the range without a single word. Commander Ryan Price, standing a few yards behind, watched closely, recognizing the deliberate patience in her actions, the discipline that spoke louder than any boast or argument could. The recruits exchanged glances, their whispered comments stifled by the gravity of the moment, sensing that the performance about to unfold would exceed their expectations. Emily's breathing was steady, measured, almost imperceptible as she aligned her sight and focused on the farthest target, estimating distance and adjusting for subtle shifts in wind that would otherwise alter the trajectory. She moved with the fluidity of someone who had internalized each procedure to the point of instinct, every motion economical yet precise, conveying confidence and capability without drawing attention to the effort required. The sunlight caught the barrel of the rifle, casting a faint gleam that seemed to highlight the meticulous care with which she had prepared her equipment. A soft rustle of movement behind the trainees broke the tension momentarily, but their attention remained fixed on Emily, captivated by the calm authority she radiated. She exhaled slowly, aligning her cheek with the stock and feeling the familiar balance of the weapon against her body, the familiar weight anchoring her focus. For the briefest moment, the world beyond the range fell away, leaving only the rifle, the target, and the precision required to meet it. The air hung thick with anticipation as Emily's gaze swept across the line of targets, her mind calculating and recalibrating as necessary, integrating the smallest environmental cues to ensure accuracy. Commander Price shifted slightly, a silent acknowledgement passing between him and Emily, an understanding of competence that needed no verbal confirmation. The trainees, previously laughing and jeering, now shifted their weight uncomfortably, realizing that the moment they had underestimated would soon demonstrate skill and control far beyond their assumptions. Emily's finger rested gently along the trigger guard, steady, controlled, ready to demonstrate what she had practiced countless times. She paused for a heartbeat, her focus unwavering, before settling fully into the shot, the quiet determination evident in her posture and expression. Around her, the morning sounds of the base continued, distant calls, the movement of personnel, the faint hum of machinery, but none of it intruded upon the concentration she maintained. Every breath, every movement was purposeful, a testament to training, discipline, and experience. The 4 trainees, sensing the change in energy and focus, leaned back slightly, their uncertainty now visible, their previous assumptions dissolving as they silently awaited the outcome of the demonstration they had thought would be easy to dismiss. Emily's calm control and precision projected an unmistakable signal of capability, one that would soon rewrite the perception of all who watched, turning doubt into recognition and establishing authority without a single word spoken. Emily Hayes exhaled softly and allowed her body to settle completely into the familiar rhythm of preparation. Her eyes, sharp and focused, scanned the far end of the range where the target stood, some nearly 1,500 yards away, and she noted the minute differences in shadow and terrain that could influence her approach. The 4 trainees had moved slightly, their earlier posture of defiance now replaced by a tense stillness, a subtle acknowledgement that the situation had shifted beyond their expectations. Commander Ryan Price observed from a discreet distance, recognizing the quiet authority that Emily projected, the kind that demanded attention without raising her voice. She methodically adjusted the scope, twisting knobs with deliberate precision, her fingers moving with the assurance of someone who had trained for countless hours under variable conditions. The rifle, meticulously maintained and balanced, felt like an extension of her own senses, and her breathing matched the cadence required for perfect alignment. Around the range, early morning activity continued, vehicles humming, instructors calling to teams, but Emily's focus seemed to carve a space of stillness, isolating her and the distant targets in a bubble of controlled concentration. She aligned her cheek against the stock, eyes narrowing through the optic, calculating wind, humidity, and the subtle shift of sunlight across the range markers. The 4 trainees exchanged uneasy glances, their whispers dying in the charged silence, realizing that their assumptions about Emily had been premature. She moved with economy and grace, each motion precise yet effortless, conveying experience, discipline, and mastery without the need for demonstration. Her finger rested lightly along the trigger guard, not in haste but in measured readiness, as if the alignment and preparation themselves were statements of competence. The morning air felt still and expectant, carrying the faint sense of dust and metal from the nearby maintenance area, yet all distractions faded in the presence of the quiet intensity Emily radiated. Commander Price shifted slightly, a subtle nod acknowledging her poise and control, the silent communication between them speaking volumes about trust and capability. The young trainees, now standing in tentative observation, sensed the culmination of her preparation approaching, their expressions a mixture of awe and nervous anticipation. Emily's gaze swept briefly over the line of targets one last time, and a subtle change in the angle of her shoulders signaled her readiness. Every muscle was relaxed yet alert, every breath controlled, every motion deliberate. There was no rush, no excess movement, only a calm, concentrated energy that held the attention of all present. The day's demonstration, though silent and precise, was about to communicate far more than words ever could, establishing Emily's authority and capability through skill, preparation, and unwavering focus. The 4 trainees shifted uneasily, aware that what was about to unfold would challenge their perceptions and command their respect, a lesson in competence delivered entirely through quiet mastery and the meticulous execution of a well-honed craft. The tension on the range grew almost tangible as Emily Hayes shifted her stance subtly, her boots finding the perfect grip on the gravel surface while her body remained relaxed yet alert. The 4 trainees, standing a few yards away, exchanged uneasy glances, their whispered comments having long since faded into silence as they tried to anticipate her next move. Commander Ryan Price observed quietly from the sidelines, recognizing the quiet power in her posture, the kind that came not from words but from absolute mastery and self-discipline. Emily's hands moved with deliberate care over the rifle, making micro-adjustments to the scope and verifying the alignment with a precision that betrayed years of training. She inhaled steadily, timing her breathing with the smallest movements, letting each calculation settle in her mind before committing to the shot. The early morning sunlight glinted off the polished metal, casting faint reflections across the range that accentuated the meticulous arrangement of her equipment. Around the perimeter, the base continued its routine activity, vehicles moving along service roads, distant voices calling instructions, yet all of it seemed to fade into the background as Emily centered entirely on her target. The young trainees shifted their weight, their nervous energy evident in small, involuntary movements as they realized that their previous assumptions about her skill had been dangerously premature. Emily's gaze swept over the line of targets one last time, noting distance, angle, and environmental factors with the ease of a practiced professional. Every adjustment she made was purposeful, economical, and efficient, a silent testament to her experience and careful preparation. Commander Price nodded ever so slightly, acknowledging the readiness and calm that Emily projected, a visual confirmation of the confidence she carried in her actions. The four trainees, now fully attentive, could only watch as Emily's posture conveyed a sense of authority and control without a single word, every subtle motion communicating competence and focus. She exhaled, aligning her cheek with the stock, her finger resting lightly along the trigger guard, ready but unhurried, and the stillness around her deepened. Dust motes floated in the morning sun, momentarily catching the light, the quiet rhythm of nature contrasting with the charged anticipation on the range. Emily adjusted her aim with minute precision, her mind accounting for every factor that could affect performance, yet she remained calm and composed, an embodiment of patience and disciplined focus. The trainees' expressions shifted from curiosity to awe, recognizing in small, unspoken ways that they were witnessing skill, preparation, and focus beyond ordinary expectation. The anticipation of the moment built subtly but surely, the collective attention of all present drawn to Emily, who radiated quiet authority, ensuring that when her next action occurred, it would communicate a clear message about expertise, control, and earned respect without uttering a single word. Emily Hayes felt the subtle shift in energy around the range as the four trainees straightened, their eyes widening with the dawning realization that they were about to witness something exceptional. The early morning light reflected off the polished components of her rifle, highlighting the careful maintenance and attention to detail that spoke volumes about her discipline. Commander Ryan Price observed quietly, a measured nod acknowledging her meticulous preparation and the unwavering focus that radiated from every movement. Emily's hands, steady and confident, made final adjustments to the scope and stock, aligning each element with practiced precision while her gaze swept the distance, noting the faint contours and variations in the terrain. Around her, the ambient sounds of the base, the distant hum of vehicles, muffled voices of personnel, and occasional clatter from equipment, faded into the background, as if the space around her had contracted to a bubble of concentrated focus. The trainees shifted uneasily, their previous bravado replaced by silent attention, sensing that the display about to unfold would challenge every assumption they had made about skill and capability. Emily's posture remained composed, her breathing slow and deliberate, a rhythm that harmonized with the methodical movements of her hands as they traced each adjustment with confidence born of repeated practice. She visualized each variable in her calculations, from distance and elevation to subtle wind currents, all integrated seamlessly in her mind as she prepared to demonstrate her proficiency. Commander Price's eyes followed the alignment of her scope, recognizing in her approach the hallmark of expertise, precision without ostentation, control without aggression, confidence without the need for validation. The four trainees glanced among themselves, uncertainty creeping into their expressions, the initial humor of the morning now replaced by anticipation and respect for the careful and deliberate approach Emily embodied. Every gesture she made conveyed purpose and mastery, from the adjustment of the rifle's components to the controlled shifting of her stance, each one contributing to an unspoken message of competence. The targets, positioned at varying distances and subtly affected by the terrain, awaited the outcome of her preparation, the quiet tension building as all present recognized the culmination of skill, patience, and experience ready to manifest. Emily's eyes narrowed slightly, a faint smile touching her lips as the calculation and readiness aligned perfectly, and the 4 trainees instinctively stepped back, granting space and acknowledging the authority of someone whose capability could no longer be questioned. The stillness of the morning amplified the gravity of the moment, each breath measured, each motion intentional, the charged atmosphere around the range reflecting the silent anticipation of a demonstration that would irrevocably establish respect, skill, and focus as the defining elements of Emily Hayes' presence on the field. Emily Hayes exhaled with quiet control, her eyes locked on the furthest target, the subtle slope of the gravel and the heat waves rising from the range not escaping her careful calculation. Every detail she had noted, every minor environmental variable, coalesced in her mind as she aligned her posture perfectly, hands steady, muscles relaxed yet attentive. Commander Ryan Price watched with measured appreciation, recognizing in her composure the culmination of extensive training, experience, and mental discipline. The 4 trainees surrounding the perimeter shifted uneasily, their prior confidence replaced by a growing awareness that the display unfolding before them was beyond casual estimation. Emily's finger hovered just above the trigger, a moment of deliberate pause, allowing her focus to lock completely on the trajectory and distance, accounting for the faintest influences from wind and light. The rifle, meticulously maintained and balanced, seemed a natural extension of her precision, each adjustment and micro-movement reinforcing the depth of her preparation. Around the range, the ambient sounds of the morning continued, distant footsteps, faint mechanical hums, and occasional low voices, yet all fell into a quiet background, leaving the tension around Emily and the target crisp and palpable. The 4 trainees exchanged glances, each micro-expression betraying their realization that they had misjudged her abilities, the earlier laughter now silenced by anticipation and respect. Emily's gaze swept slowly over the target line once more, confirming her calculations, adjusting subtly for minor environmental variables, her body perfectly aligned, poised, and ready. Commander Price's eyes tracked her every movement, silently acknowledging the precise control and calm authority she radiated. The young trainees stood frozen, their nervous energy held in check by the gravity of the moment, each aware that the skill they were about to witness would redefine their understanding of discipline and capability. Emily exhaled softly, settling her shoulder into the stock, eyes narrowing in focused determination, hands steady as she prepared to execute the demonstration she had spent years perfecting. The sunlight highlighted the polished metal of the rifle, each reflection accentuating the care and meticulous attention she had applied, a visual testament to her professionalism. Dust motes floated in the air, shimmering briefly in the morning light, adding a quiet rhythm to the charged stillness that surrounded her. The 4 trainees instinctively stepped back slightly, their posture now reflective of silent acknowledgement, a recognition of authority and competence communicated entirely through Emily's controlled, deliberate actions. Commander Price nodded ever so subtly, a quiet affirmation that the moment was critical, the preparation flawless, and the display imminent. Emily's eyes, unwavering, scanned the distance one final time, every detail absorbed and accounted for, every calculation complete, as the atmosphere thickened with the anticipation of a skilled demonstration that would immediately command respect and redefine the perception of those who had doubted her. Emily Hayes exhaled slowly, the tension that had built across the range shifting into a tangible pause as the first shot left her rifle with controlled precision. The sound, crisp and definitive, echoed across the gravel, drawing the attention of every person nearby, including the 4 trainees whose expressions had transformed from skepticism to astonishment in an instant. The bullet traveled its calculated path, striking the distant target with unerring accuracy, each detail of her prior preparation manifesting flawlessly in that single, silent action. Commander Ryan Price watched closely, a faint nod of acknowledgement confirming the perfection of her execution, recognizing the skill, patience, and years of discipline that had culminated in this moment. The trainees exchanged glances, their initial smirks now replaced with wide-eyed respect, the earlier confidence dissolved by the clear demonstration of Emily's expertise. She did not speak, nor did she need to, the demonstration itself communicated the depth of her capability far more effectively than words ever could. Dust shifted slightly in the light breeze as the trajectory of the shot settled, and the atmosphere on the range seemed to hold its breath for a brief moment, acknowledging the precision, control, and deliberate patience Emily had employed. Each component of her movement, from the adjustment of her stance to the controlled exhale and alignment of her aim, contributed to the effortless mastery that the onlookers could now recognize. The 4 trainees took a half step back, unconsciously creating distance, their previous posturing muted by the silent authority that Emily projected. Commander Price's eyes followed her smoothly, noting the calm command she had asserted over the situation, the kind of presence that instills respect without the need for raised voices or overt demonstration. The sun continued to rise, casting long golden shafts across the targets and illuminating the meticulous arrangement of the range, but all attention remained focused on Emily, whose disciplined and deliberate approach had transformed perception into undeniable recognition. The subtle movements of her hands as she maintained the rifle, the measured pause before the next action, and the unwavering focus in her gaze all combined to convey a silent but powerful message: expertise commands attention, and respect is earned through skill, preparation, and composure. The trainees shifted again, eyes tracing every detail of her form and action, realizing in small increments the level of mastery they had overlooked, the underestimation of her abilities replaced with the clarity of understanding. Commander Price stepped slightly forward, just enough to acknowledge the lesson being silently delivered, a testament to her experience, precision, and unwavering focus. In the brief stillness that followed, every observer on the range felt the shift, a quiet acknowledgement that Emily Hayes had not only met the challenge presented by their skepticism but had elevated the standard of respect through a demonstration of flawless skill, patience, and controlled composure that left no doubt in anyone's mind about her capability and command of the situation. The range fell into a calm stillness as Emily Hayes lowered the rifle slowly, her movements controlled and deliberate, each action communicating quiet authority and competence to everyone present. The 4 trainees, previously full of mockery and doubt, now stood with muted expressions, their earlier bravado replaced by a newfound respect that needed no words to convey. Commander Ryan Price stepped closer, nodding subtly, a silent affirmation of the skill and precision Emily had demonstrated, the clarity of her capability leaving no room for doubt or underestimation. Around the range, the subtle hum of base activity continued, distant voices, vehicles moving along service roads, and the occasional clatter of equipment, but the focus remained on Emily, her presence commanding the attention of all observers through the elegance of discipline and the assurance of expertise. She meticulously checked her rifle one final time, her fingers tracing each adjustment with practiced care, reinforcing the idea that mastery is built on attention to detail, patience, and repeated deliberate practice. The 4 trainees exchanged glances, their eyes wide with realization, acknowledging silently that their assumptions about skill and ability had been far too hasty. Emily's posture remained calm and composed, exuding a quiet strength that transcended words, her focus unwavering even as the initial tension dissolved into respect and admiration. The sunlight continued to play across the range, highlighting the polished surfaces of the equipment and the subtle shifts in terrain, but none of these visual elements distracted from the authority Emily projected through her calm confidence and controlled movements. Commander Price's gaze lingered on her, noting the seamless integration of preparation, focus, and execution, recognizing in her presence a demonstration of leadership and capability that spoke louder than any verbal instruction. The trainees, now standing slightly apart, allowed a brief silence to settle, the lesson of earned respect and competence embedding itself in the atmosphere, unspoken yet undeniably clear. Emily's eyes swept across the line of targets and then over the observing group, a soft but confident exhale releasing the accumulated tension, her body language conveying the satisfaction of skill executed with precision and composure. The quiet around her became a backdrop for the unspoken acknowledgement of mastery, the demonstration complete, leaving every person present with an understanding that true ability commands recognition naturally, and that judgment based on appearance or assumption is easily corrected by evidence, discipline, and deliberate action. As she stepped away from the firing table, each movement measured and purposeful, the air seemed to settle, carrying with it the unspoken lesson that respect, once earned, cannot be taken lightly, and that Emily Hayes had made that truth unmistakably clear to everyone who had witnessed the morning's precise and controlled display of excellence.